All right, so this last little set of notes right here, I'm going to move my little face down there so you guys can see because it was covering up some of the words. Um, this is going to cover the scientific revolution, which is happening in conjunction with and caused by the age of exploration. So it may feel a little bit disconnected from the rest of the unit because our unit has been talking about explorers and trade and slavery and cultures radically changing, but that's where this comes from. So the scientific revolution comes from this radical change, this need for new technology, and this movement into a whole new world. So as Europeans explored new territory and came into contact with new cultures and learned new things, they began to question the tools that they currently had and how they could improve them, and also question their basic beliefs about the world around them. The scientific revolution is this time period where the great thinkers of the time started to alter the way we all thought about the world itself. The scientific reformers put an emphasis on the reason and systematic observation and systematic measurement. So the steps to the scientific method and how you need that process in order to create valid results, which then does drastically alter our understanding of the entire world. The scientific method is going to, I'm moving this a lot today, is going to be created in this time period so that we have a globally accepted order in which to produce results that you can test a theory and produce the exact same results every time, which is going to then expand our scientific knowledge, because these things that can be replicated, can be duplicated, then give us answers to the world that we're living in. And this is something that's brand new for the time period, because before this, we were relying on a lot of superstition and just hearsay, and also some of the teachings of the church, which is where we got most of our knowledge base from, turned out to be false. Remember that this is coming on the heels of the Protestant Reformation and the fact that the Catholic Church had been lying to the population about things like indulgences. So that shift in mistrust with the Catholic Church also leads to a shift in people starting to learn more. So we've got a handful of people to cover fairly quickly. These are all key vocabulary. That's probably the best way to learn this. But Copernicus is a Polish thinker who studied the astronomy of our solar system and the stars, and created something called the heliocentric theory. So helio, that root word for helio, means sun. And the heliocentric theory is the fact that the sun is in the center of our solar system. So before we operated on a Ptolemaic, from Ptolemy, a Ptolemaic model of geocentricity, where we believed that the Earth was a stationary object and the sun and the moon and the stars all orbited around the Earth. And that's obviously false. We know that that's false in today's world. But it's Copernicus that comes up with the fact that we moved around the sun. You can see here he has the sun in the middle. That's probably harder to see than I drew on it. He has the sun in the middle and all of the planets moving around the sun. So that's Copernicus in a heliocentric model. Bacon, Sir Francis Bacon, was an English philosopher, English scientist who created the scientific method. He created the steps that you learn in science class about how to put together a quality experiment in order for results to be duplicated. Because if I get different results than someone else, then what I decide, what I conclude, is not necessarily accurate. And that's the point of the scientific method, is to create standard understandings of the world. Our next person is Johan Kepler. He's from the Holy Roman Empire, which you may remember from your geography assignments is in the center of Europe, sort of close between modern-day Germany and Austria and Czechoslovakia. He takes Copernicus's heliocentric model and he uses lots of study in order to prove that, yes, in fact, this is our model. But he did skew from Copernicus just a little bit in that Copernicus's model, if I tap back on it for just a minute, has the planets orbiting in perfect unified circles, and that's not accurate. Our orbital paths are elliptical. They're oval shaped. They're not perfect circles, and that's the difference with the laws of planetary motion that Kepler creates. Our next one is Galileo, and Galileo uses the telescope in order to prove the heliocentric theory. So he's still studying, I mean, this is guy number 3, right? About the fact that the Earth is not the center. That's how crucial this belief system was to everybody on the planet, is that for the history of humanity, people believed that Earth stayed stationary and everything else revolved around us. And this is the third guy in a row to say, no, that's not right. But Galileo is also devoutly Catholic, and he believed in his heart. He really truly believed that using this scientific method and using these processes and spending his whole life studying this, that the Catholic Church would admit, oh yeah, absolutely, you're correct. And they didn't. Not only did he not convince the Catholic Church that the sun was stationary and that we moved around the sun, the Catholic Church pulled him up against the Inquisitional court. Remember the Inquisition from the Protestant Reformation? Put him up against the Inquisitional court and charged him with heresy. Heresy is crimes against the church. He was speaking out that the Catholic Church teachings were wrong. And what he did ultimately is he recanted. He took back. He was like, I'm sorry, I must have made a mistake, because his choice was recant or be excommunicated. Galileo's choice was publicly admit you're wrong, or we will block you from the church. Therefore, you will not go to heaven. And so he had to back on his beliefs. And the Catholic Church didn't admit that they were wrong until the 20th century, till the 1900s. And they were like, Galileo, sorry about that. That's our bad. And Galileo, of course, had been dead for hundreds of years. Just a couple more people. We have Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton is an English scientist. You may have heard his story. That's what our picture here is about. His story is about an apple falling from the tree, and he theorized gravity. So gravity is the force that objects have towards each other. It's the force that keeps us pulled into the earth, but it's also the force that keeps the earth orbiting around the sun. He comes up with that science of gravity. He theorizes the laws of motion. An object at rest will stay at rest. An object in motion will stay in motion until an outside force acts upon it. He also does a lot of theories for calculus. He's a very, very, very smart man. And then our last one is William Harvey. So William Harvey is an anatomist. Anatomy is the study of the body, right? And he's an anatomist, and he did a lot of study with cadavers to create, cadavers are dead bodies, to formulate the circulatory system, the fact that the heart would pump blood throughout your whole body. People understood that we had blood. People understood that we had a heart. But the greatest misnomer is that people thought that your body was using the blood up, and that your heart was constantly making blood, and your heartbeat was that. And he explained how the heart actually was recirculating your blood throughout your body, and that you weren't just like constantly using it, which was really interesting, really revolutionary at the time. I do want to point out that when we're talking about timelines, you can see he's wearing an Elizabethan collar. William Harvey is a Renaissance thinker. If I can pull it up for just a second, I'm just going to Google it while you guys are screen recording. It's probably harder to see with this because I can't make the screen any bigger while I'm recording. But William Harvey, if I go back to the regular search, is 1578 to 1657. Now remember that Queen Elizabeth doesn't die until 1603. So trying to put everything back on your timeline, the Renaissance unit is happening still at the same time as all this is happening. So during the Renaissance, during Queen Elizabeth, we're also having the Age of Discovery. we're also having the Protestant Reformation. These are three big major things going on all at the same time. We split them apart for you in history because we like to chunk information by theme, but know that all of the things that we've talked about so far are all happening in the same time period. So it's all very interconnected and very driven upon each other. So I know that was quick, but if you have any questions, always reach out and let me know. Bye, guys.